Hello, good day everyone, and welcome to the OneSolve YouTube channel. And for today's session, what I'm going to be showing you how to use is the rib command. So what we have on screen is a sort of all-angle component, and what we'd like to do is create just one piece of material going from the top face to the bottom, essentially a rib. Now, in order to create the rib tool, there are a couple additional work features that you may need, such as a plane. So I'm just going to create one of those very quickly using the mid plane option. So we have our work plane to draw on. The next step would be to actually sketch where our rib is going to be created. So I can simply head over to my ribbon, start a 2D sketch, grab my work plane, and to draw out the rib, I actually don't have to draw out the entire closed profile as we would traditionally do inside of Inventor. All I have to do is grab the line command and somewhat define where I'd like to create my rib. So you'll notice that the sketch profile itself doesn't extend to the top and bottom pieces of the material, but that's okay. That's why the rib tool is so nice and easy to use and very intelligent on top of that. So once I've got a general alignment of where my rib is to be created, all I have to do is now head over to my ribbon, hit that button, which is the rib tool. Now with the rib tool, you'll have a couple configurations you can do. We are just going to run through some of the basic options. The first one is normal to sketch plane. So this will create a rib normal to your sketch plane, and how it works is we first have to choose our profile. It's only found one sketched entity available, so it's already been selected. We can then define our thickness, but before I actually do any of those operations, nothing has been created yet. So we have to next, okay, which we will get to on how that works. It actually forms part of the next function, but in this case what I'm going to use is finite. Finite is going to create a thin piece of material running between the two faces of my component quite easily, essentially defining our rib profile. Now in terms of changing the rib profile or defining its location, you do have these directional planes as you would in terms of most of the Inventor functions such as extrude. Now if you have a look at the behavior, I'm just going to head over to the front view. It gives you a good indication of how this is working. So the sketch profile that we created is essentially now a center line. How this works is I can simply use the directional buttons to define the location of my rib. Do I want it below that center line, or the rib sketch profile above it, or directly in the middle, symmetric on either side? Okay, now I'm going to shift that over and I'll just go through those again. Left to the bottom, right to the top, and symmetrical on either end. So you've got two options to control the size of the rib that you're creating. You've got two types of thicknesses. So the first one, if I just increase that amount there, it defines the actual height of the rib. Okay, so just make a couple more of those adjustments. 15, a little bit smaller. If I change it to 20, you'll notice that the height increases. The second adjustment at the bottom will actually control the thickness of the rib, okay, heading in the same or normal direction to the plane. So if I change that, I can maybe make that 20, and you'll notice its thickness increase. Okay, another thing you'll notice is that the position of the rib is now on the right hand side of the work plane. We can change that if we like, to the left or right hand side of the work plane using those toggles. Okay, so I'm going to get this back to something a little bit smaller, and okay, so that should be good. The next option is inside of your rib dialog box, you'll have parallel to sketch plane, which is a great tool in terms of creating not a rib but a web. So the rib tool can create two types of features, a rib or a web. Now once I select that function, the definitions in the dialog box work a little bit differently. Okay, so you still have your finite tool as well as your to next option. So first let's have a look at the behavior. So in terms of how the thickness works now is if I increase it, by 20, you can see it's not actually controlling the height, it's controlling the thickness in the Z direction, or normal to the work plane. Okay, I'll change that again to 10, and we will notice that thickness update. In terms of the positional options, how this is working is your mid plane determines the position of your web, or the location of it, web or rib, as opposed to the sketch line. So if I head over to the left hand side of the work plane, to the right hand side, and of course directly in the middle, symmetric on either end. Okay, what's really nice about the rib tool, what I mentioned earlier on, is we can actually control or make this a web feature very quickly by simply choosing this to next option, which extends your rib profile all the way to the next piece of material where it's able to terminate the feature and creates a complete web. So that pretty much summarizes the rib function and how it works. Stay tuned to our YouTube channel for more content and short sessions showcasing some of the Inventor functions.